And we're live! Woo! I really need to upgrade this computer. That just does not look that impressive. I tried to do something the other day, and the internet was like, nope, your computer's old and crusty. Try again later, you dip. And I was like, that's kind of rude, but whatever.
Yep. The internet shows no favorites.
Nah, it certainly does not. All right, let me post the We Are Live things here, and then we'll get started.
Was it you that was talking about sitting down and watching some horror movies with one of your daughters?
Yeah, well, on Halloween we watched the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy, which is Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and World's End, the three Nick Frost, Simon Pegg movies.
You want to talk about that in the banner for the first one?
Yeah, we can do that. Let me move some of these shirts that are hanging up behind me that keep popping in. Yeah. Need to get one of them official green screens.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of money for nothing.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that's not what we do. We're garage band style, man. That's what this is. This is guerrilla podcasting.
Exactly. We have at least one person watching us right now.
Hey, all right.
Man. Just noticed through the camera that I have a wound on my hand from one of the cats. They are I don't know if you I don't know how many cats you have, so I don't know if you experienced this, but I have wounds just all over me. You know, if they were deeper and needed stitches, I would look like Batman as he aged, because I just have these scars just all over me. And, you know, it's like I've got this crisscross thing going on my forearm, because they like to sit in my lap, and sometimes they'll get up and for some reason they need to launch off of my arm, and they feel the need to use their claws for that. And sons of bitches.
Yep. Any number of things happens. Yeah, I have stuff all up. I have two. I have stuff all up and down my arms.
Yeah.
They'll, let me know when they're done playing, if that's the case, or they'll jump, like you said, or heaven forbid, they're laying on your lap and they get spooked and decide to hop up and run off. That's that's the good one.
Yeah.
There.
That's where they really get you. Yep.
That loud noise or something fell or whatever, and they freak the hell out.
Yeah. So, hey, folks, this is the Superman Super Show Live, number 28. We'll be talking about, what is it?
World's Best Comics.
World's Best Comics, number 1, the Superman story from that issue, and
Action Comics
35. Now, before we start recording, before this goes into an episode, just for our live viewers, just for those who watch the video afterwards, which was the favorite of your two? Which is your favorite of the two?
This had, and then this one had the. I think probably the World's Best.
Yes. Mine too. All right. Good.
Not by a whole lot.
No.
Action Comics story was pretty dang good too. And actually, there's something that I noticed the two of these that I'll point out when we talk about them, and see if maybe it's just me or if you agree that I have noticed something and something has changed.
Okay. Cool. All right. Yeah. And the Action Comics one, it was good. It was one of the better ones, but most best just beat it out. But the Action Comics ones has a twist that I thought I saw coming, and then I didn't see coming, and then it was like, oh well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you're like, what? Oh, yeah, okay, I see.
All right, if you are watching us live and you're over on the YouTube, please feel free to leave comments as we record. We will try to respond to them and flash them up on the screen. Let your presence be known. Otherwise,
be square.
What's the point of broadcasting live into the ether? Okay, I am recording.
As am I. I believe. I will double check. And yes, I am.
I'll just say real quick. Monday, we got a new episode going up on Monday. It's episode 68. This live stream will get us episodes
73 and 74.
73 and 74. So I was hoping to have time to sit down before we started streaming and actually put dates to those so I'd know how far out we are.
Mm-hmm.
Just because.
Well, I mean, that's what? 6. We've got 6 episodes. Yeah. One of those drops tomorrow.
Yes.
So that is 5 every 2 weeks, which is 10 weeks. 11, 12, 13, 14 weeks with the 2 that we've got today.
Monday is, hey, there's somebody new to the stream. It's Nickname. Hi, Nickname.
Hello, Nickname.
That's a good name. Nick. Name. I like that. It's clever. But because on Monday is episode 68.
Right.
So that leaves us with 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, and 74. So that's 6 left after we get done today.
Right. 12 weeks. 3 months.
12 weeks, yeah. And I was thinking maybe if you're up to it, on any given Saturday, I should usually know a week to 5 days in advance if my daughter is working. And if she is, and you're open and I'm open, I say we get together and record like just one Superman story. Still try to plan on 2 every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But if between that time, if we're able to, let's just jump in and do one, something that doesn't take too much out of our Saturdays. And I'm really excited about the idea of getting a crap ton in the bucket.
Like a Christmas story.
Like a certain Christmas story. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And looking at everything with today's, that should have us through the end of January every 2 weeks.
Cool. All right, cool. Okay. Let me shift my screens around so I got my show notes up. And if you're ready, we'll get started.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let me take a little iced latte. 4 shots of espresso. All right. The following episode was recorded in front of a live streaming audience on Saturday, November the 2nd, 2024. You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 73, Superman versus the Rainmaker. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Steven, and 1,000 miles over there to my right is another host, Mr. Ed Moore.
Howdy.
Hi, Ed. And of course, when I go to my right, you're not there on the screen. You're on the other side. So I don't know if that confuses people who watch live, but
that's all right.
Well, looking at my screen, you're to the right of me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the same way on your end.
No, you are to my left.
See,
as I look, which is interesting because on my camera, to do that, I have to hold up my right hand. But as I look, you're over this way. So
see, that's my right.
And,
it's the whole non-mirror thing, so we can have the Superman logo actually say Superman.
Right, the correct way. Yeah.
I always glance at these every time we do one. Once it's done, I always get on the YouTube just to look at it and see how it looks.
To see how
Yeah.
did that come out? I know how it looked when I did it.
That's right. That's right. And then I always go, I need to upgrade that computer, man. Because I'm like,
you're fine, dog. Like
I know. I don't care.
We're guerrilla podcasters. You know, we started this shit way back in the day when CGS was at episode 100 and 200 back.
That's right.
You know, yeah. So
that's right.
Whatever. It's, you know, we're not the big radio with the big boom and the huge table, and it's like, no, man, no. I have a laptop. This camera is on a laptop. I'm reading off of a laptop. Now, I will say, I do have a Blue Yeti over here next to me. That is my biggest expense for podcasting. Like in 15 years that I've done it, this is like 90% of the money that I have spent, and it is the biggest single purchase I've done. So
and really when it comes to professional microphones, the Blue Yeti is very inexpensive. You know, it's why a lot of people use them, because they're good mics, but they don't break the bank. And you know, I'm a guerrilla broadcaster as well. However, at the end of the day, the final product, I try to make it sound as freaking good as possible with what little resources I have.
Sure.
You know, but yeah.
And I do want to throw out there for anyone that is listening live or will be listening to these podcasts in the future, the Rainmaker Steeven mentioned, that is not Kazuchika Okada. It's not that Rainmaker for those of you that are wrestling fans. So it's
okay. It's a wrestling thing.
Yeah, that he formerly was part of New Japan Pro and maybe some others early in his career. Now he's with AEW, and so the Rainmaker, that's kind of his thing. When he comes out, they drop like dollar bills, and his finishing move he calls the Rainmaker. So that's
nice.
Why the
very nice.
Yeah. So
well, go ahead.
I was going to say, you mentioned something, I believe it would have been early last week, about having kind of a movie marathon, Halloween-based, that you and your daughter participate in. Is that correct?
Yes. For those of us watching us, or for those of you watching live, of course, this is just a couple days after Halloween. I don't know when this will go up on the feed. It'll be a month or two after Halloween.
Yeah, who cares?
But we... a couple of years back, I just decided on Halloween, I think I was off, and I decided I was going to watch Shaun of the Dead, because it's a good, you know, spooky but not spooky type of movie. I'm not really into the horror movies too much, but Shaun of the Dead's one of my favorites. And my daughter, my middle daughter, because I got four kids. I got a stepdaughter and then 2 daughters and a son. But my Rana, who's still at home, she decided she was going to watch it with me, and she really enjoyed it. So I said, well, let's just watch the other 2 movies in the Cornetto 3 Flavors trilogy, which is Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and World's End. And so we watched all 3 of them. This was about 3-4 Halloweens ago, and that has just become our Halloween thing now. Every Halloween we watch those 3 movies, and it's kind of fun to point out, this guy is in all 3 of the movies, and it's not Simon Pegg, it's not Nick Frost, but this guy's in all 3, and that guy's in all 3, and this, it's kind of fun to do that. And we always seem to find something new to laugh at each year, which is also kind of fun. But I love those movies. Every time we finish, we end with the 3rd one, which is World's End. And if you've seen the movie, it ends with in a post-apocalyptic kind of world. And I really wish they would do a sequel to it. I want to see more of them, their characters living in this post-apocalyptic world, because it's everything that leads up to it. And then it ends, and I want to see more. And I think they need to do another movie, and they're all, because it's Nick Frost, it's Simon Pegg, but then the director Edgar Wright, he's the same director. It's the 3 of them, and I think the producer Nira Park, she's involved as well. But Simon Pegg and Nick Frost have reached an age which is my age. I don't know. They're older. I think it would be a lot of fun to see them in a post-apocalyptic world. I want to see that. That's they've done the horror zombie genre. They've done the action cop, Bad Boys 2, Point Break genre with Hot Fuzz, and then they've done this. I don't know what kind of genre you'd call World's End. It's like a sci-fi Twilight Zone robot takeover type of thing, and now I think they have an opportunity to do a post-apocalyptic movie, and I think they need to expand the trilogy into a quadrilogy. I don't know what four of them are called.
Now, for those like myself that are uninitiated, Simon Pegg is the dude that played Scotty in the new Star Trek movies, right?
Yes, he's also very heavily involved in the Mission Impossible movies after like the second or third one. I've actually never seen any of them. But
yeah, he's like produced, direct. I mean, he's like way involved. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. I follow Nick Frost on Instagram. He goes under the handle Fried Gold, which if you've seen the trilogy, you understand that reference. But I have man feelings for Simon Pegg.
That's fair. Perfectly acceptable.
What about you? What you got going on? Did you guys do anything for Halloween?
We turned the porch light on and opened the door and had 0 encounters. So yeah, we just live, I guess, in a section or a neighborhood, if you want to call it that people don't visit, if they even visit. Now, I suspect that it doesn't occur like it used to. But yet you go online and you'll see people that's like, oh, yeah, we had 500 people. And I'm like, wow, I don't know what the difference is. I don't live in a bad part of town. I don't live in a bad town. So I don't know.
I think it depends on the community and if there is a trunk or treat that happens nearby.
Well,
I think
they do a lot of that stuff, like not necessarily on Halloween night.
Right.
I mean, my little town, Halloween night has a set date, and that's when it occurs. But leading up to it, like churches will have trunk or treat.
Yep.
Maybe a school here or there, or so, so that's like the week or week and a half maybe leading up to Halloween. So yeah. I guess I don't know. I mean, when I was growing up, that would have just been added to the list. It's not like just the one thing would have sufficed.
Right.
I'd hit all those bitches that I could find. I mean, so it's, so I don't know.
But when we were kids, our parents would put us in the costumes and go on. And then we just go out and do it.
Well, yeah, it was okay to do that. Yeah.
Nowadays, I was telling my daughter, I said, if the trunk or treat was as prevalent then as they were now, I said, I would have just taken you to that and that's it. I wouldn't drive you all over damn town. It's just not something I want to do.
I don't know, man. I mean,
yeah,
it is easier. You just park over here and pat them on the behind and say, okay, go through all the little cars over there. And when you get done, come back over here and we'll head home. Yeah. I don't know. I was talking to a coworker and she was talking about when she was little, remembering staying out until like midnight trick-or-treating. I'm like, I don't remember that.
When I was a teenager, sure.
Well, I'm not sure you could call it trick-or-treating, could you? I mean, that's,
You throw a mask on, you get out there and you get some candy, and then you just get up to some no good. Until
he rolls of toilet paper and okay.
You know what? I have never in my life toilet papered a house or egged a house. Never done that. I've done some stuff, but I've never done that.
The worst I did is put a college professor's house up for sale. We drove around in like a 5 or 10 mile radius and pulled up all of the for sale signs that we saw, and then went back to his yard and stuck them all in his yard.
Oh my God, that's funny.
We thought it was pretty funny, yeah. Especially since the next day, we did this on a Sunday night. The next day, the first class we had in school was with that professor in college. Yeah. So of course we went to that class and heard him bitching about these stupid kids and we're like, oh yeah, that's terrible. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So do you got a lot of kids in your neighborhood?
In the immediate neighborhood, I don't believe, honestly, we have any. That probably has a lot to do with it. 3, 4, 5. We have 5 houses on my little dead end street here. Well, but I am the middle house.
Yeah.
There's 2 before and 2 after. At the other side of the 2 before is an intersection with a street that breaks into 3 or 4 other streets that, compromises the actual neighborhood itself. So directly here, no kids, but there's probably within several hundred yards, there's probably 20 families that have kids. So, I mean,
yeah, well, I don't get
here,
it. Then.
Just not immediately. Yeah, I don't know.
That's weird.
It's okay. No big deal.
Yeah. All right. Banter complete.
All right.
Today we're looking at Superman versus the Rainmaker, which is the Superman story that appears in World's Best Comics #1. It was written by Jerry Siegel with art by Paul Cassaday. And it has a cover date of 1941. That's the cover date. Just 1941.
1941.
That's the one comic they're going to put out that year. But according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, it went on sale on February 10th, 1941. And here is what happened in the issue. B. Drexel Rutherford is approached by a man claiming that he can cause rain. The man attempts to blackmail Rutherford, but the business owner refuses. The Rainmaker then proves his power by creating storms which damage Rutherford's business. Rutherford tells his story to Clark Kent after Superman rescues him. The Rainmaker threatens to break a local dam, so Superman goes into action. He is unable to stop the dam from bursting, but he does divert the water. Superman then saves Lois, who is held hostage by the criminal.
Of course.
Ed, what'd you think?
I liked it. I did like it. Now, I do want to ask a question.
Okay.
For some reason, and it could just be me in reading this morning, I read both of these this morning, I thought that there was a lot more action than in previous stories, quickly followed up by the story from Action, which also seemed to be rather full. Here is an example from the World's Best Story. Okay, we have a fire. Okay, we have an issue with a bus, runaway bus. We have an explosion near the dam that causes a collapsing building. We then have some gunplay. We have a giant snake. We have a group of men with guns. We then have a gas gun that is used against Superman. The rain itself, which you would hope would come into play at some point, and it does here finally, which causes some issues with the dam, as you would expect, and you can kind of foresee the kind of problems it would cause without me having to say it. We'll go into that in a minute. You have the plane going down, of course, that Lois is on, going to the dam, arriving much too late really to be of any use. And then you have some more gunplay to finish up the story. So all of that occurs in 13 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, which is very close to one thing per page.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a scene per page. Yep.
Yeah. It's just this. And when I got done reading it, it just struck me that there really weren't too many like quiet times, travel moments, talking heads like we have had in some of the other stories to build up the story. The action seemed to be the story. And then they just linked the actions as, this person who was responsible did this and he sent people to do that. And but it, all the actiony things were linked together to make the story. And it just stuck out to me. Am I? Go ahead.
Well, I wonder if they're like, look, this is the first issue of this new anthology book. Pull out all the stops, make this one big.
Well, I have 9 things in 13 pages for the action story.
Not, the action story, and of course we'll talk about that next episode, but there is a lot happening in that. That one is almost more chaotic and confusing at times.
In a way, yeah.
But it's all like the action in that one. The action all kind of fits together in regard, it's the same theme for that story and all the action, but with this one and More Best, it's like you said, there's just these weird little, the fire, the bus that gets out of control, it just, why? All right, let's go through the story and then we'll talk about these things individually. And I will say real quick, the art in this story was freaking amazing. This is the best I think Superman has looked in a while. And it's Cassaday. So it's the guy that's been doing the last number of stories that we've read. And but he really knocked it out of the park on this one. All right, so we open up at the B. Drexel Rutherford. He's a utilities guy.
Yeah. First, let me mention the cover. Okay. Sitting somewhere, wouldn't have been a spinner rack at this time. Probably it would have been those flat racks on the wall. You're looking at the comic books and you see a book and you look at it. Let's see, 96 pages it says on the cover. Okay, that's a pretty good deal. But the individuals pictured are Superman, Robin, and Batman. Okay, right there. I mean, if you know anything about DC Comics or superhero comics at the time, that's it. But then you read on and you see Red, White, and Blue. I have no idea who that is. And Zatara. Zatara, I know. But actually, there are 3 or 4 other named stories with characters that I recognize that weren't even featured on the cover. So if you picked it up and then started flipping through it, this was a heck of a comic at the time. Almost, with the covers, you can probably say 100 pages for, I don't know what this was, probably 25 cents?
I can find out real quick.
25 or 35 cents? I mean, it couldn't have been way much because of the time. But I can't imagine seeing this first issue and not being interested in buying it as a kid who, like I say, either has been reading Superman or has been reading Batman. Oh, heck, now both of them are in the same book. I pick it up to flip through it and see what else. You know, there's a Crimson Avenger story, and there's some, there's a war hero, there's a private detective, there's some funny, quasi-romantic, kind of little bit more teeny kind of related thing. So it's just full of stuff.
It was 15 cents.
15, okay. Yeah,
so I think
for 100 pages.
Yeah, and I think like Action Comics is a dime. So
yeah,
5 more cents. And yeah, Johnny Thunder is also in this.
Yes, yes.
And then a bunch of people that, like you said, I don't recognize any of their names, but still.
Yeah, they've been filling out probably Detective and Action.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 stories in this book.
Yeah, and I also noticed that the bookends, Superman was the first of the bigger stories, and Batman and Robin was the last of the bigger stories. Both of them 13 pages. So you bracket, and yeah.
And if you notice on that cover, you got Batman and Robin with these big smiles on their faces.
Mm-hmm.
Superman's, you might call it a smile. It's not quite a smile. It's more of a, it makes me think of a Clint Eastwood steely stare. Like,
I was not quite a grimace, but not quite happy. It's but he is showing teeth nonetheless.
Yeah,
so
but it's kind of funny. Well, yeah, but it's kind of funny to think about the fact that just looking at this cover, it's almost like Superman is the dark character.
Yeah, wouldn't it be flipped?
Well, Batman and Robin are the lighthearted.
Yeah. It would certainly be flipped nowadays. That's for
sure. Yeah, totally.
Okay, sorry.
All right, so we go to the office of B. Drexel Rutherford, the head of Rutherford Utilities, and this dude has come to see him to tell him that he knows how to make it rain. He can make it rain, and he proves it to Rutherford by telling him it's going to rain in 5 minutes, and then in 5 minutes it rains. And he tells Rutherford that he wants payment from him. He doesn't say how much. He wants payment. And if he doesn't get this money from him, he is going to destroy Rutherford's dam that is in Imperial Valley. And Rutherford's like, no, you You're obviously a psycho. You're crazy to think you can make it rain. And he goes to get, they actually refer to him as the office bouncer. So instead of a security guard, they got a bouncer. And the guy pulls a Batman on him. So Rutherford goes to the door, calls for the bouncer, turns around. The guy's gone. He's disappeared.
Yep.
And so then we get a series of accidents that happen to various employees of Rutherford. First is just the company picnic, and it rains on the company picnic. That's like, that sucks, but all right, whatever. And then an executive drowns the next day. Another executive is dies in some kind of terrible storm. And we go from there to Clark Kent. He's out on the street. A fire engine goes streaking by, and I love the way that that's drawn. That they really added a lot of motion lines to that fire engine, and I really like it.
Yeah. I do want to say, you mentioned the art. I did not think in this reproduction that the coloring hurt the art in this particular story.
Yes. Yeah.
I have said before that this oversaturation of the reproduced art just typically doesn't work. Here, the art is still just as vibrantly colored. That's not changed. But I think the amount of detail has picked up, and then you have issues like you said, where they have done certain things to increase the interest in the panel.
Yeah.
Action, motion lines, things happening. And so it doesn't need as much single block color, and it doesn't need as much color either, because there's so much more detail. So something either with this book or with the state of art at the time, something changed in this, and it reproduced a little bit better, I think, than a lot of the other stories have.
I agree. And they didn't, like you said, they didn't overdo it, because if you look at those two panels with the fire engine, there's two colors plus gray. There's yellow and there's red. Well, there's the blue of Clark's suit.
Right.
But otherwise it's yellow and red, and then there's gray and white.
Right. Well, blue is partially red, isn't it? Don't you get blue? Is blue red plus something? No. Red and blue make green. Red and blue. Yeah. Anyways.
Yellow and blue make green. Red and blue and yellow are the three primary colors.
Okay. So,
but
I'm not an artist. I was a musician in college. That's what I did. So it's
rock and roll. But so this fire engine streaks by, and Clark decides he's just gonna leap on the fire engine because he hasn't chased a fire in years. And the fireman that's also on the side of the truck turns back and sees Clark there just hanging off the truck. And he doesn't really cry out in alarm or surprise. He just kind of goes, "Say, I don't remember you. Where did you come from?" And Clark just tells him, "Hey, I've been here the whole time, man. Don't you remember?" And so I guess he just lets Clark stay.
Yeah, whatever. I guess it happens every day that somebody jumps on a fire truck.
Yeah. Now, when we get to these final two panels, when we're talking about the coloring, while they didn't do it's this reproduction of the coloring isn't something that makes you go, it doesn't make you hate the coloring like some of the reproductions do. But these two panels are examples of where it does look like they either use some type of brush with these colors or it's digital. And to me, that stood out a bit, but still, it's not an overuse of colors. I think when it comes to digital coloring, some people can really overdo it and oversaturate, and it's just too much. But anyway, Clark gets to the fire. He sees that there's somebody up in the upper floor of this house, and he knows that the firemen won't be able to get to them. So he changes into Superman and he saves them. And they happen to be old Mr. Rutherford and his wife.
Wow. And what a coincidence.
Yeah. Mr. Rutherford has grown quite paranoid. So as soon as Superman comes bursting through their open top floor window, he yanks out a gun. Of course, who wouldn't? I'm sorry. Some dude just jumps in your window in the middle of a fire and he's wearing a crazy costume. the gun is probably a good bet.
Mm-hmm.
But Superman gets the gun from him, grabs them both, tells them to just no back talk. You're coming with me. Leaps out the window with him, saves them, changes back into Clark so then he can go get the story.
Right.
And that's when he learns from Rutherford of the Rainmaker. And I love this bit here because I love that Rutherford, all this crap has happened to him. He's had at least two people on his team murdered. He's had his house set on fire. And he's still like, screw this guy. I'm not putting up with this crap, instead of, he could very well be like, oh, no, nothing's wrong, Mr. Clark Kent. And thinking, I'm going to have to give this guy some money. No, he's like, I'm not going to let this guy get away with this. He's very upset about it. And his wife, it is best you tell everything. That's probably one of my favorite lines of the book.
She has her hand on,
yes.
on her hair. Yes.
I'm going to faint. It is best that you tell him everything. So he tells Clark. Clark refers to the Rainmaker as a ruthless cuss. So Clark needs to calm down. And then he steps out into the street and is immediately run over by a bus.
Very literally. It's not, he doesn't do anything. He gets run over by the bus.
He gets run over by the bus. He's able to stop the bus from underneath. He breaks open a window. There's carbon monoxide gas in the bus. And then they do something that I don't think they've done in a Superman comic yet. We see it all the time now, but this might be the first time. I don't know. But he runs around the bus in super speed, sucking all of the gas out of the bus, funneling it out, and
I don't
dispersing it into the air. Yeah. And then we learn that this is the guy, the bus driver's first day, and Clark realizes that this bus is controlled by Rutherford and his associates. So could the Rainmaker have struck again? Maybe. They don't tell us for sure. So
no, we never find out.
So really, we get these two moments of action that seem to have nothing to do, just these random moments, and yet they're still tied into what's going on.
Right. Yeah. If nothing else, they're connected by name.
Yeah.
Both times.
So instead of like Rutherford coming into the paper to tell them I need to know somebody to know what's happening with this bad guy that's trying to blackmail me. They add a bit of action to get Clark to meet Rutherford. I like that. It's really like they were given an edict. Mm-hmm. Every page must have some action on it in all 13 pages of the story. So Clark goes to the chief at the planet, tells him what's going on. And the chief just says, as he's reading the newspaper, he's listening to Clark from behind a newspaper, which is kind of rude, but he just says, go to it. Well, and so
maybe he's proofreading the next edition.
Hey, he maybe is.
Somebody's got to do it. So,
having gone through many management training courses and leadership kind of things, that's you want to listen. You want to engage in what they call active listening.
Make them feel that what they have to say is important. And
the way you do that is by you look at them,
make them eye contact.
And you nod your head and you smile. Do that. That's active listening. He's smoking and reading the newspaper.
I'm the first person to say, go ahead. I hear with these. I don't hear with these. Go ahead. I can. Yeah.
So anyway, Clark runs to the roof, changes into Superman, and leaps off into the day to go figure out what's going on with Rutherford and the Rainmaker. In the meantime, Lois bursts into the chief's office, says she's looked all over but can't find Clark anywhere. And the chief is angry. Why'd he rush off like that? Well, chief, probably because you told him to go to it.
You told him to go.
Yeah. So he wants, because the chief wants Lois to go with him. And so he sends Lois off. And the panel makes me think the way she comes in and says, sorry, I looked all over but couldn't find him, makes me think that he had asked her, go find Clark.
Right. Bring him here so that he could tell them both. I want both of you to go. Yeah.
So I don't know how much time has elapsed between Clark talking to the chief, going up on top of the building, jumping away, and then Lois coming into the room, but it's almost like as soon as Clark left, the chief was like, "Find me Clark Kent." So yeah. So Lois gets on a plane. Clark arrives at the dam to find a building, like a utility building, probably outside the dam, exploding. He, of course, is leaping. He's not flying yet. We're not quite there. We're getting close. He goes into the office. He saves the 2 guys there. Well, no, there's 3 guys.
There's 3 guys, yeah.
And then some dude, some stranger, just comes up to Superman and hands him a slip of paper and says 1 word. Read. It just cracks me up. Read. And so he reads the paper, and it's a warning from the Rainmaker telling him not to interfere. The thug tells him that you want to listen to the boss. You don't want to cross him.
Look at these 3 panels. When he's handing Superman the note here in the first one, no cigarette. The next one,
cigarette. Yep.
He's got a cigarette. In the third one, he has no cigarette. Yeah, so
the third one, I can almost, I don't know, either they talk really slow, and as Superman's reading the note, 1 word at a time, the guy lights up a cigarette, starts smoking. Right. And then by the time they get to the panel 3, he's finished it and tossed it away.
Sure,
because
that's possible.
I could, in that third panel, you don't see either of his hands. He could be holding a cigarette. In the 4th panel of this segment, one of his hands is off panel, so he could be holding the cigarette in that hand.
Okay.
But by the last panel, there's no cigarette at all.
It's a try, but I don't buy it. But okay, all right.
This scene here with this guy, I think, might be my favorite scene in the story, because him walking up to Superman, handing him the paper, and just saying "read." That
just walking up to him, yeah. It's like, so what, he was standing over here, waiting for Superman, and
he's just chilling, watching the building burn. And
it's like, oh, there he is. Okay,
there he is.
He just delivered the message
casually. He's just so cocky and confident, and so Superman tells him that he's not going to listen to the boss. He's going to interfere. So that's just the way it is. And he walks away from the guy, tosses the note behind his back.
The panel before, though, don't forget it. It has your favorite affectation in the speech.
Oh, yeah. So when he tells him he's not gonna
Superman says,
he's not gonna do anything. He's gonna keep doing what he's doing. The threats mean nothing to him. And the thug says, "So that's how it is, eh?" Because that's how they talked back then, especially if you were a thug and a gangster.
Right. If you were a bad guy. Right.
And that's when Superman just turns his back on him, tosses the note behind him at the guy, and says, "You heard me." And this guy, just that panel where he says, "So that's how it is, eh?" You can see the anger in his face. Mm-hmm. The fact that anybody would defy the boss, he's super pissed. And so he immediately pulls a gun and shoots Superman in the back.
Yep.
And
also keep in mind this suit that this dude is wearing.
Almost as ugly as the suit that Clark's wearing in the next.
Exactly.
The issue we're going to talk about the next episode.
It's the exact same. It's like, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Clark, dude.
This leads to my second favorite moment, because first, to continue with this scene, he shoots Superman in the back. The bullet bounces off. Superman turns around as the guy is scratching his head and looking at the gun and say, "It bounced off." And Superman responds with, "And I've a notion to bounce my fist off your chin," which is a great line. But instead, he just grabs the guy up and says, "You're going to take me to the laboratory where your boss is." And the guy's like, "Well, that's miles away." And Superman's like, "That's all right. We can get there pretty quick," and leaps up into the air with the guy.
Yep. So basically, I guess he threatens to drop the guy somewhere along the way to get him to tell.
Probably. So they land outside what looks like a barn, which houses the laboratory of the Rainmaker. And this is where we just dive into that level of ridiculousness that I love so much in these old Superman comics.
Need some kind of action here.
He is attacked not by a guard dog,
no,
but by a guard giant boa constrictor. And if you look at all 4 panels that this snake is in, that snake's mouth is wide open in all 4 panels. It just, first of all, this is a super fast snake because it obviously just leaps onto Superman, wrapping itself around him super quick. Because Superman wouldn't allow a boa constrictor to just casually, because they're not that fast.
Right. Yeah.
You know? But it's just there. Bam! Wrapped around him. Superman, I thought, was gonna burst the snake apart.
No, that would be so mean to the snake.
He's flexing, and the snake, he kind of comes loose, and he ties the snake to a tree. Which, that's what you do. I mean, how many cartoons have we seen from like the 60s where something like this has happened?
You know? Giant snake, and it's big enough, and you just tie it to something to get away. Yeah.
And so I'm gonna put a challenge out to all of our listeners and viewers and everything. Is this the first time we ever see a hero tie a big snake to a tree? Because it happened. I've seen it often, but is this the first time? Is every time we've seen it since because Superman did it? Let us know. SupermanSupershow@gmail.com.
Okay.
So, yeah. So here's that bit of action. He fights a snake, but that's not enough. A big gaggle of men dressed exactly the same in brown suits and ties come running out with pistols and Tommy guns, and Superman just decks them all like in one punch, it looks like. And that's when, as he's breaking all their guns, that's when the Rainmaker comes out and shoots Superman with a paralysis gas gun. And it actually affects Superman. The guy tells him that the discharge was enough to have killed 1,000 ordinary men. Why would he have that in a gun?
That would be very dangerous just to have around. I would think.
What if he dropped it?
Anything. I mean,
I mean, if one discharge is enough to kill 1,000 ordinary men, what if he accidentally dropped it and a little bit just leaked out? He's dead.
A whiff could kill 3, 4, 5 men. I mean, everybody in a room. I mean,
And the fact that he's firing it off without wearing any kind of gas mask, what if the wind changed? He'd be dead. Yep. So I wonder if this has ever been retconned as maybe the guy created this gas gun by some kind of mineral that he found, a green rock. Kryptonite. Could this be the first instance of kryptonite being used on Superman?
Why would he think that it would have any effect just because it's green? I mean,
because he's a comic book scientist madman. It's like, this looks fun. I'll make some gas out of this. The gas is green.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Yeah, but green usually denotes poison.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. If it hasn't been retconned, it needs to be.
Well, somebody throw it out there. Tom King will do that, or
somebody needs to. Yeah, somebody needs to do a story.
Or whoever's doing Superman next. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Superman he's not, obviously he didn't die. He's not like paralyzed, I don't think, because he goes with the Rainmaker. He tells him, you come with me now, and you're going to watch me do all my evil things. And so Superman goes with him. So basically he's just not Superman anymore. He's just not strong.
Right.
But they go into the laboratory. The guy turns on his rain-making machine, and he's cackling, and he's twisting his mustache, and he's doing all the bad guy, mad scientist stuff. And all the while, Superman is just straining. He's just flexing and straining and just trying to just overcome the effects of this gas, when suddenly, bam, he's better. Just like that. Boom, better. All right, let's kick some ass. And which, of course, he does by popping the guy in the chin. And He goes outside. He sees that the rain is coming down really hard, looks back into the laboratory, and he can see through his x-ray vision that even though he punched the rainmaker in the chin, the guy's back up and he's dancing around. Rain, rain, yay. He's saying, more rain, more. I'll show them. I'll wipe that dam off the face of the earth. He's got his hands over his head and he's just dancing around. And Superman is like, oh my God, this guy is insane. And so he pushes the laboratory off of a cliff into the river.
Okay, now at first I thought that he had pushed the dude in because he was in the laboratory, but I guess not, because he's outside dancing in the rain and Superman pushed the building. So I guess he was outside.
Well,
and it kind of comes up in a little bit too. So
yeah, I just assumed that panel of him dancing was he's inside and we're looking at him through the window from the outside.
Okay, but wouldn't that make it virtually impossible for him to pop back up?
That's what I thought on this page. I thought, all right, well, Superman killed him.
Yeah, he got tired of him and pushed the building that he was in over.
Yeah.
But this maybe this panel is the saving grace and the dude really wasn't in it. He was right beside it, but outside.
Yeah, and so the purpose of pushing the laboratory into the river is more about deactivating the machine.
Yeah.
But it cracks me up to think that the guy was in the building, though, because, some people, a normal powered person, maybe faced with a guy dancing around crazy, the rain, would go, shut up, and push him over. Superman goes, shut up, and pushes his building into a river.
Okay, yeah. He takes it out on the whole building rather than the dude, yeah.
We get one panel of Lois still in the airplane because Lois has to be a part of this story. And they are having problems on the airplane because there's a big storm. And what they would have called a stewardess at the time tells her to buckle up. Superman races to the dam just in time to see it burst.
Right.
But then he digs a pit and throws a boulder to a certain spot, and he is able to divert the flow of the water to an area where there's not farms and people living in junk. The plane starts to go down.
Lois is up and walking around.
She does not do what people tell her.
No, I mean, if the plane is going down, why in the world did she get up to walk around and do anything?
Yeah. She said, the lady tells her, we're in the middle of a storm, sit down, buckle up. And Lois just gives her the middle finger and stands up.
Yep, jumps up and starts yelling, we're falling.
Yeah. But of course, it appears that the stewardess is Lois's twin sister. So
it could be, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is Lois from Earth Other.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the plane is going down. Clark leaps up into the air, grabs the plane, and even though he can't fly, he's able to make it land safely just because he caught it in the air. I don't understand that.
It goes down and he keeps it from crashing. To me, the most impressive thing, though, was in the floodwaters as they're washing over Superman. He's standing there holding the plane up above his head as the waters are rushing, by him. And you see a building over here at the side to show you that it's massive floodwaters. And then when it passes, he sets the plane down. Yeah.
So this is where we get, okay, I've changed my mind. This is my favorite part of the story.
Okay.
Because just so we can have something for Lois to do, she gets out of the plane.
Right.
And then immediately the Rainmaker bursts out of a bush with a gun and grabs her and takes her hostage, because that's Lois's role still at this point.
She has to be involved in the story. So, yeah.
However, the saving grace here is that as he's standing there holding her by the wrist, gun pointed at her, she's telling everybody around them, I guess there's a couple of policemen, and Superman's there, and she's yelling at them, don't mind me, rush him. And when nobody does, she takes matters into her own hands and slaps the dude so hard that he lets go of her and drops. And that allows Superman to rush in as the guy then takes a shot at at Lois, and he blocks the bullet with his hand. You know, I've noticed that a lot lately. When we think of people shooting at Superman, we always think of like the George Reeves TV show where he's standing there with his hands on his hips and the bullets are bouncing off of his chest. Most of the time, if he knows the shots are coming, or if he's jumping in front of a bullet, he tends to deflect them with his hands more than anything. He either catches the bullet or knocks it aside. And that's kind of what he's doing here. He's deflecting it with his hand. And then in the most shocking, out of all of this, the most shocking bit of story, Superman goes chasing after the Rainmaker. The Rainmaker trips, falls, cracks his head on a big stone on the ground, and is dead.
Yep, that's
dead. It. And Superman very casually, hands on hips, he'll no longer menace or blackmail anyone. He's dead. Lois says, "How awful." And then he Superman tells everybody to get back into the airplane. And it's a pilot. It's not the cop. It's the pilot. He says, "I don't think it's airworthy." Lois says, "Just listen to the man." And Superman picks up the airplane and leaps back to Metropolis with it.
Yeah.
Where he quickly calls Rutherford to tell him that everything's cool now, and changes back into Clark just in time to file the story. And we get that typical last panel. Lois is upset because Clark got the scoop. She didn't see him at all during the whole adventure, even though she was in the plane for most of it. But Clark, she says, how in the world did you ever get the details of the story? And Clark says, how? Merely by sticking on the job while you go gallivanting about it I can't talk. How? Merely by sticking on the job while you go gallivanting about the country on a joyride. Wah, wah, the end. And that's probably when they would both pull their heads back to laugh, and in mid-laugh, ha, it'd freeze and the credits would start rolling.
Right, yeah. This has gotten to be a thing now where Clark is scooping Lois almost every time. Didn't used to be that way, but somewhere along the way there was a switch, and now, and I guess it's because they realized that it's funny because Clark is never there.
Right.
Superman is, Lois is there, sees Superman, Clark's, and she never puts together that there is some connection between Clark and Superman. It's just completely alien to her that they're,
Well, and then the fact that he's such a coward, the very idea of him really just sticking around and getting the story just doesn't seem like something that Clark Kent would do. And yet,
we really see how big a coward he is. It's really forward in the next story that we talk about too.
Yes, that's a good one. A little tease for the next episode.
Poor guy,
yeah. But so not only has it become this trope now where Clark scoops Lois, but it's been the ending of the last 5 stories at least.
Okay.
The last 1 to 2 panels where Lois is like, "Oh my gosh, you got the story. How did you do that?" And he either says, "Because I'm a great reporter," basically, or "because Superman helped me out." One of those 2 things. So yeah. But yeah, that was something. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It looked great. I feel like Superman is being drawn even beefier in this story.
Yeah.
He seems to be more, his muscles are more defined. His chest is more broad. His shoulders are more broad. So, I mean, just look at this last page, the second panel. Look at that image of Superman. It's like he's got this thick bull neck, and he looks like a weightlifter.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Like, just a bodybuilder there.
He hasn't always looked like that. So I find that very interesting.
And, what we know of his powers, he doesn't have to. His powers have nothing to do with his physique, essentially. So now at the time they hadn't developed it that far, but now, which would make sense given how they explain his powers. It's like, well, he could look like a scrawny 16-year-old kid. It's not going to matter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I remember back when me and my buddy Harold we're going to do a comic book together. We were coming up with the look of somebody, one of the guys. I think it was a bad guy, and I'm like, let's not make him. He's super strong, but let's not make him a big hulking muscular. You know what they do nowadays. If you're super strong, chances are you're either going to be like a weightlifter type or like the freaking Hulk. You're going to be like 9 feet tall and super giant muscular. I said, let's make him a skinny dude, just a frail looking skinny dude who can pick up a bus, because
really throw people off because he doesn't look like it, which, again, depending on what you're doing could very much be the point,
Yeah. When you see a panel of a frail skinny dude holding a bus up, that almost seems more, whoa, what's that? Right. You see the Hulk picking up a bus. It's like, okay,
okay. Yeah.
He looks like he could pick up a bus. All right. What do you got? What do you think about this one? What are some of your favorite moments?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. Favorite moments. I don't like, no, that's not a good word for it, because it wasn't a particularly good moment, but I thought it was a very telling moment, perhaps in the writing, which is a reflection of the author's mentality, which is a reflection of what is going on around him at the time, in that the bad guy, he's running away, trips and falls, hits his head, and dies. It's like not some accident that in doing something Superman caused a cave-in and the bad guy was caught in the cave-in, or in getting Lois away just in time from the explosion kills the bad guy, or any of these other possibilities. This is like, no, dude tried to shoot Superman, it doesn't work, so he's running away to get away from Superman. Superman doesn't do anything to him. The bad guy himself trips and falls, hits his head on a rock, and that kills him. And I just thought, what, that is, wow.
It's a stupid accident, and something we have to remember is Jerry Siegel, the writer of the pair, his dad died when he was a teenager, maybe, and somebody, one or two, I don't remember, broke into their business, held his dad up, and his dad died of a heart attack because of it. And so it was like his dad, I think the rumor or the myth is that he was shot down by the burglar, and that's why Siegel created a man who was bulletproof. But I think that's been debunked, that his dad actually died of a heart attack. But it was either during or right after. It was due to the robbery. And so his dad died in such a, it's one of those that life is just stupid when it comes to stuff like that. Yeah. He could have had, obviously they needed to wrap this up really quick, and he could have just as easily had Superman grab the guy and
hand him off to somebody in the airplane and say, here, take care of him. Yep. We'll all, the rest of this, get in the airplane, and I'll take the airplane back and all that. But it's like, no, we'll just get rid of the bad guy by having him die, and then that way we don't have to worry. Yeah. I just thought that was very, to me, now, I will say, perhaps stuff like that goes on a lot more in the pulp stories of the time, which I am not familiar with, but I have been leaning a lot more towards trying to find, just to see what they're like. I mean, a pulp novel from this time is like 120 pages. What is that? Like 3 hours worth of reading nowadays. I mean, that's nothing. So it's the pulp stories that a lot of these heroes have been based on, and their heroes as they were brought over to comic books, has been a kind of a recent rabbit hole for me. I haven't quite taken the jump to try to find them and read them, but I've been doing my due diligence and making lists of what I want to try to find, maybe. And But I just thought that was, leading up to it, there still was a lot of violence. There was a lot of gunplay, explosions, possible building collapsing on people. Didn't happen. The flood, that is a not funny, horrible, terrible thing to happen, but he got away from it by diverting the water. So, so I mean, there was a lot of potentially really big issues.
Giant snake.
avoided, the
Yeah.
bad guys with the Tommy guns after the stick.
Yep.
Nothing really, there's nothing. They don't show anything bad happening.
Right. Nobody is seriously injured.
No, until the very end of the story. Like,
Yep.
what is this? 1 page, like 10 panels ish from the end of the story.
Yep.
A dude falls down, hits his head, and dies. It's like,
Yeah.
what does that have to do with anything? Well, I mean, he was the bad guy, but the way he died, it has nothing to do with anything. And maybe
Right.
that's the point.
Yeah. It makes you feel like they wrote that, they put that there for a purpose. There was something there. There's something they're trying to say with that. And I think it's just that, look at all this crazy shit that can happen. And in the end, this guy died because of a stupid accident.
Right. The fate still caught up with him, or how, I mean, whatever your thinking is. But yeah, I thought that was probably the most impactful element of the story to me.
Yep. And Superman obviously just doesn't care.
Wow. Yeah, I know the Boy Scout is not acting very Boy Scoutish right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we talk about this. We've talked about this a lot recently when we look at these, but I always kind of wonder, how they would write this story today.
Ooh, yeah.
And Superman would probably feel a lot of guilt at the end of the story, because he could have saved him.
Right.
Even after he tripped, Superman could have caught him before he hit the ground. What if earlier in the issue where he popped the guy in the jaw, what if he threw the punch a little too hard, broke the guy's neck, and he died there?
Right.
That would have really messed Superman up.
Nowadays, it certainly would have. That would have had Superman not Supermaning for several issues while he tries to get that out of the system.
But in this story, he would have been like, well, he's dead. I guess he can't get up to no good, and he certainly won't be holding Lois hostage here after a bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about this one?
No, sir. I don't think so.
I do want to say that even though Rutherford is not the bad guy of this one, he is obviously a rich guy. He's a powerful man, and they do draw him as if he was a bad guy. He just has a kind of a sinister, especially that last page of him on the phone with Superman.
He's got a pencil mustache.
Yeah. He looks like he could be a mob boss. And I know that was a big thing of that's why Superman is the champion of the oppressed. And a lot of those early stories were him, remember when he went around Metropolis and destroyed all the car lots and the car factory and stuff like that?
Yeah. The stuff that was preying on the good people. He just went on a rampage and just was messing with all of it. Yeah.
Yep. If this Superman was around today, with the Jeff Bezos and the Tesla guy, Elon Musk's, I just wonder what he'd be doing. Would he be destroying Cybertrucks?
Yeah, really. Taking out AI farms.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
All right. Let's wrap this sucker up then. I'm never really sure how to end these anymore. But yeah, that was World's Best Comics, which, Ed, you say it changes, the title changes by the next issue?
Yeah, I believe the second issue, it becomes World's Finest. And that's what we know today.
Let's look here. Yeah, World's Finest Comics retains the numbering, so it's number 2. So if you're ever like, I have World's Finest number 2, I can't find World's Finest number 1 anywhere. It's not even on a database. It's because it's got a different name.
Yep.
Yeah, that's got a cover date of summer 1941.
And that's one really cool thing. There is a comic book encyclopedia kind of site that I was a huge fan of, and many people were, that got sold and then just crushed under the boot of whatever corporation. But one good thing I do like about the Grand Comics database is that when you find a book, if you trace the book back, it will tell you a previous title, even if it has nothing to do, like it was a romance and it became a Western and then it became a horror comic and then whatever. It will tell you the title and give you a link that you can go back and hit that. And then you get the entry of that book and you can see how far it went. You go to the earliest issue of that. If it changed names again, it'll give you the name. And so, I mean, you can, with a little bit of effort, you can track down books that have had completely different titles, but maintain the numbering. And so in essence are the same book. Nowadays that doesn't happen too much, but back in, like, I was just looking at some Charlton books, and there are some books that went like through 5 or 6 completely different things through the course of 40 or 50 issues.
They do a fairly good job of that over at Mike's Amazing World.
Okay.
So
I've not
like
actually looked there for it. Okay.
Yeah, with this particular issue, for example, so if I go to, because I'm looking at it right now, World's Best Comics #1, when he has them all lumped together, you know, as a series. So there's a button here where I can go to the next issue, and that'll take me to World's Finest Comics #2.
Okay.
So I've noticed that with the Conan issues, because there is a giant size Conan between, I think, the issue 29, which I talked about on the last issue, and issue 30, which is coming out on Wednesday, Conan the Barbarian issue number 30. There's a king size or a giant size Conan #1 between those 2 issues, but it's a reprint, which is why I didn't cover it.
Okay. So he takes you there and then takes you to the next book. Okay.
Yeah. And he also will tell you, for a lot of these, he'll list the various collections that you can find them in as well.
Okay. So Grand Comics Database will give you reprints where it's reprinted. Nice. It'll also tell you if the story you're reading is a reprint and where that is originally from. Nice. That has come into play a couple times in the Pacific Comics books that I've been looking at. Like Bernie Wrightson in particular, he has taken several stories, brought them over and put them together for a book at Pacific, but they're all reprints from Eerie and Creepy and stuff like that he did, and he's just brought them with him and packaged them for a book for that company. So kind of a reverse reprint, a preprint, or whatever you would call it.
Yeah. All right, well, until next week, folks, my name is Steven, that's Ed, and this was the Superman Super Show. Bye.
Ciao.
All right, let me stop my recording device. Save this file.
This is episode 73.
73. Okay. Saved, and I am back to recording. So
look and make sure. Yep, it's there. Okay.
If there's anybody watching live, are you reading these along with us? Did you read this particular World's Best Comics? If so, what was your favorite moment? Let us know.
I see a message from the wife. Oh, okay. She's just responding to something I sent. Cool. Okay. Good to go.
All right. I am ready when you're ready.
You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode 74, The Guybart Gold Mine. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Ed, and 1,000 miles over there to my left, this is actually my left, but this is the left that has Steven on it, over there, is another host, Mr. Steven Orr. Steven, how's tricks?
I used to get that cereal a lot. I don't anymore. Otherwise, everything's good.
Tricks with an X.
Tricks are for kids.
Tricks.
So
Silly rabbit.
I
Billy D.
Billy D has joined us. Billy D watching live says, "Hey boys, hey Billy." I always wanted to do a comic strip, and I think honestly it might have even been Harold's idea. I don't remember, but a comic strip. It's going to sound terrible, but instead of it being cereal, it was prostitutes. Tricks aren't for kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's horrible. I'm sorry.
That's horrible. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna have to leave. That's just
yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, so last issue, I asked about some TV that you were watching. Last episode. This episode, I'm going to talk about some TV I'm watching. I've got a recording in 20 minutes, but I'll jump back on after if you guys... 20 minutes? Oh, we'll still be here, Billy, after 20 minutes. Yeah. Not a problem.
Well, depends on how long he's going to record after that 20 minutes is up.
Oh, touche. That's true.
Billy D, for those of you listening to the episode, Billy D watching live has said that he's got a recording to do in 20 minutes, but he'll jump back on if you guys are still rolling. Probably not, Billy. I'll be honest with you. I mean, we're probably going to go for another hour, I bet, at least.
But probably you will too. So,
yeah. Well, we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see who gets done first.
Billy D. It'll be a race to the end.
Billy says he's going to probably take about 20 minutes, but that's 60 minutes, but that's in 20 minutes. So that's
Christmas comics. An hour and 20. See, Steven, Christmas comics. There's signs from above that we need to do what we were talking about. Yeah.
Billy says Mark Gray and I are talking Christmas comics. Ed and I talked about a particular Christmas comic to talk about. You know, what might be even more fun is to wait until December so that we can do the live stream in December and still release the episode in December at the same time. I don't know. Just thought.
That's an awful lot of pressure.
I know. As soon as I start scheduling and planning, shit just turns to hell. So I should stop talking. All right. What have you been watching?
If I may, for those of yes. Okay. Let's try that. For those of you that are not aware, there we go. English is hard. Billy D does multiple shows on his Magazines and Monsters feed, talking about comics, talking about movies, having guests galore. So excellent overall umbrella to keep you entertained. Drops some kind of show about once a week, talking about the different things that he talks about. So it's if you like Billy D, he's a fun dude to listen to. You get a new show just about every week. So good stuff.
Billy D is like the anti-Steeven. We both do a lot of shows, but Billy D actually does his and gets them released.
He puts his out.
Right, exactly.
You just hoard.
Yep. Yeah.
Recorded. Right. I have so many.
I'm like, I have an idea. I have an idea. I'll record an episode and then just go on to my. I'm the
whatever.
I say it all the time. I'm the Rob Liefeld of podcasting.
What about that one show? Oh yeah, I recorded it, and that's the end of the discussion. It's you recorded it. Okay.
If you followed Rob Liefeld back in the Image days, it seemed like he was putting out a new book every other week, and they may go one or two issues, and then he'd go on to something else. And that's me. Yeah.
Almost at my break for the holidays. Looking forward to it, and I have a fantastic promo thanks to Steven.
You never know. I may just decide one day to update that promo for free, Billy, because I'm never satisfied with anything I do, and if I ever have a chance to make it better, I'm gonna. So that's what you pay for when you hire this guy.
Okay, TV. Recently, Hallmark started a push for a thing that they do. Hallmark has become famous on TV for doing Christmas movies year round, basically. And they recently started a promotion advertising that they have an app. And as part of downloading this app, you have the ability to track this series of movies that they're coming out with from, they started about 2.5, maybe 3 weeks ago, up until Christmas. the 37 movies of Christmas is what they're calling this little promotion. And I thought, okay, my wife and I have caught a Hallmark Christmas movie here and there. It's never something we've focused on, but they are what they are. They do what they're supposed to do. So I thought, well, let's see. So I downloaded the app and looked. Started DVRing the movies as they came up, because at first they were at times that we were watching other stuff. We're football fans, we're wrestling fans, so the fall is a tough time to watch everything that we want to watch.
Yep.
Night before last, this is Saturday as we record, Thursday night, we sat down and watched the first 3 of those back to back. So that's like 5.5 to 6 hours of Hallmark Christmas.
Yeah.
That's an ask, first of all, not trying to be mean, but that's, but they were good. We were entertained. We're going to continue. Ultimately, the goal is, by the time December 25th rolls around, to have watched 37 Hallmark Christmas movies. So,
are these all new? Are they all old? Are they a mix?
They're all new.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And every movie has one person that you recognize. None of the other actors or actresses really are, overly but there's always that one face. It might not even be in the starring role, but you're like, hey, I know they were in, and it's something completely on Hallmark related. Now, if you watch enough Hallmark movies, you'll see that there's like 5 actors that are in every movie that they do, if you watch closely enough. But yeah, so
I feel like George from Meanwhile at the podcast, he's one of the hosts of that. I feel like he really gets into the Hallmark Christmas movies every year as well. It's like a big time for him.
And there's a part of me that could see that. There's a part of me that's like, yeah, no, that's not for me. But given a chance, I think they will be entertaining enough. And So it plus I found out, it's not really come up before, but I found out that my wife does indeed like those movies. So that is
cool.
That much more motivation for me to watch them with her. And we've been having a pretty good time with those.
Neat. There's just so much stuff out there to watch these days that it's kind of fun when you get an opportunity to say, all right, well, here's like a reading list, here are the top 20 books that you should read for the summer, like that kind of thing. So it's easier to then decide what you're going to watch if you make, I don't want to say make a game out of it, but it's almost like you have a goal to watch all 37 movies, right?
Yeah. It adds to the motivation of, well, I'm not doing anything. What should I do? Well, you have this list right here that you wanted to tackle. So yeah. Okay.
I decided to sit and watch all the Transformers movies, and those Michael Bay Transformers movies are just hard to get through sometimes. I'm not even through. I started a week to 2 weeks ago, and I just finished the second movie the other day.
Those movies make my head hurt. The robots, watching the robot, it just hurts. It gives me a headache with
the robots. It's so frustrating because they're doing so many cool things. And you just want to go, would you just hold the camera steady so I can see what they're doing?
Something. Yeah. And
Michael Bay just has this. And when you watch a Michael Bay movie, it seems like anytime there is a shot that doesn't have any humans in it, whether it's an establishing shot of a building or an airplane or cars, they all look like B-roll, like they're clip art that he is insert. It's like really high dollar clip art type of shit. But I'm looking forward to getting beyond the Michael Bay versions and to the other ones, because I seem to remember sort of liking those. But
Okay.
So where do these Hallmark movies, where do they stream?
We are catching them on the actual Hallmark channel on Dish. We have Dish.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So I'm not sure if Hallmark has a streaming app or if, I don't even know who the parent for Hallmark Channel is to
No,
try
I
to track
feel
that
like
down.
this is the time of year where I feel like it's either Netflix or Hulu or maybe both, just suddenly just get a crap ton of Christmas movies that I've never heard of. And I often wonder if these are all these Hallmark Christmas movies that they're, made some kind of deal with Hallmark. But
Hallmark Plus is a streaming service. So apparently they do have
okay.
a streaming service, Hallmark Plus.
Well, and speaking of companies and parent companies, I'm going to change the subject really quick. I'm going to be super brief, but if you get the chance, if you enjoy stories about video games in the 80s and the history behind them, there is a podcast that's out now that is finished called Sword Quest, and it's all about the Atari in the 80s and this contest that they started. Atari was owned by Warner Brothers. So was the Franklin Mint at the time, and of course DC Comics. And so they got DC Comics involved. They were supposed to put out 4 different video games. Each game you had to play and find the answers to all these clues. You'd use the DC comic book that came with it as part of it. And then if you won, you were picked to go to this like Atari headquarters to play another game with the finalists to win some kind of token that was made by the Franklin Mint that was worth $25,000. And you did all 4 to win the final token, which was a big sword, and that was worth $50,000. But then somewhere along the way, Atari started losing all kinds of money, and it went south, and nobody knows what happened to the final prizes and all this. It's a really interesting Sword Quest. Check it out. It's a lot of commercials. You use the the skip 30-second button a lot, but really, it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, cool. Sword Quest. Okay. All right, we good?
I'm good. You good?
I'm good. All right, folks. Today we're looking at the Guy Bart Gold Mine, which is a Superman story that appeared in Action Comics number 35. This is written for us by Jerry Siegel, penciled by Wayne Boring, and inked by Don Commissaro. Now, Action Comics 35 has a cover date of April 1941, and according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, an approximate on sale date of February 20th. Pretty specific to be approximate. February 20th, 1941. And for those of you that don't have access to the book, why are you listening to the show? Go read it. I mean, come on.
Come on.
Okay, so Lois Lane is approached by an elderly couple to investigate the Guy Bart gold mine in which they have stock. The apparent worthless stock is suddenly a hot item as several bandits try to steal it from Lois. Lois visits the mine suspecting it to be valuable. She learns that it's not, but several mines in the area have been robbed. Lois becomes trapped in the mine, but Superman rescues her and reveals a secret entrance. Near the hidden area is a stockpile of gold. Lois shows the other miners the gold. One of the bandits then holds her up at gunpoint and takes that gold. Superman intervenes, stopping the bandits. Brock Walters, owner of another nearby mine, was ultimately behind the robberies. He hid the gold in the worthless Guy Bart mine and tried to buy the stock to prevent anyone from investigating the mine. Lois receives a reward for the capture of the bandits and gives that to the elderly couple from the beginning of the story. So, Steven, what'd you think?
I'm going to say one quick thing about this story that I really enjoyed, and then I'll let us take you through I'll let you, like I'm the boss. Then you could take us through a deeper dive of the issue. But
okay,
like you, I read this story this morning.
Okay.
I actually put these show notes together before I read the story. So I read this synopsis before I read the story. And the moment in the synopsis where it says, near the hidden area is a stockpile of gold. Mm-hmm. When I got to that in the issue, I was really disappointed by their quote stockpile of gold. You know, we'll get there when you get to it, but Superman's like, look at the gold. And sure, I'm sure it's worth a lot of money, but it's more like a small,
I mean, you can
ankle
see
high
it all.
pile almost. Yeah.
Yeah, you see it all. It's like, oh.
I hear a hidden stockpile of gold. I'm thinking like Fort Knox,
Or
not like
some Pharaoh's treasure room or something like that, a stockpile.
The, the gold that you see there could fill maybe half a pillowcase. Yeah. Still, it's a lot of money. I'm sorry. You run across that kind of gold back then, you're probably set for life. But not what I was expecting.
All right. First, looking at the cover. The cover is a pretty cool cover and has absolutely nothing to do with this Superman story in it.
No, and sorry to interrupt, but we talked about this a couple of episodes back as well. I think when we were talking about the last Action Comics. And if you, knowing that none of these covers have anything to do with the story inside, when I finished this issue, I looked at the cover to the next issue, got super excited.
And
before I realized that
it
has nothing to do, because it's got Superman fighting robots. And I'm like, yes, Superman's going to fight robots. And nary a robot shows up in that issue.
Yeah. Whoops. Gotcha.
But this is a cool cover. I like this. It's World War II, maybe?
I would assume, yeah. He's Superman is standing there. Looks like a battlefield behind him. But he has come upon a machine gun nest, and you have an enemy soldier. You can't necessarily tell anything about any nationality. It's kind of generic. But he's peppering Superman with a machine gun, and the bullets are just bouncing off Superman, who's standing in the arms up, muscle pose. Look at my bicep pose there. His cape seems kind of short, I think.
It does.
Other than that, and it's like, very dynamic, very pertinent. We're in the early parts of 1941. Now, the U.S. isn't involved, but all the news is telling you about what's going on in Europe. So this kind of thing would be something that is in the papers, magazines, any newsreels that are coming through before the movies. I mean, so most people are going to be familiar with something like this going on. And they've used that into a Superman where he's the good guy and the machine gunist is the bad guy, and he's our hero. He'll if he has to get involved, it'll be over, and so.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, because not only do folks in America know what's going on overseas. Of course, we won't get involved for another year. I think it's December of 41 that Pearl Harbor is bombed or attacked, but throughout 1941, there's, of course, the country. Oh my gosh, the country's divided. Can you believe it? But there are people that want us to get involved in the war, that they feel it's our duty to go and stop this evil. But then there are the people that it's not our job to police the world, And so you see a cover like this at a time like this. This sometimes would be the way of, either the company or just the artist or the writer or all of them saying, this is their subtle way of saying we need to get into this war. This
is what we think.
Yeah.
All right. So the actual half-page splash here to start does have a direct bearing on the story, and actually is a scene from the story from maybe a slightly different angle. So they make up for the cover by then. Now, I will say, I don't believe there's any other Superman stories in Action Comics. I believe our omnibus has the only story from the Action Comics issues. So
yes.
I don't know if maybe this picture may have shown up elsewhere in the book as something else, or, have another reason to be on the cover, even though it's not really related to the direct Superman story. That's always possible. I don't have access to the rest of the Action Comic issue, so I can't say one way or the other. All I do have is an image of the cover, and then the next page starts the actual Superman story in the omnibus that I have. So that's all I know. So We start out as the synopsis told us. There's an old couple who the gentleman looks familiar to me from somewhere, and maybe it's just the style of the art. I certainly can't place it, but he looks somehow familiar. But there's an older couple at the switchboard for the paper. They've come in, and I don't know, maybe the operator called Lois down, or maybe Lois was right there in the room at the same time. But it's interesting that they didn't really use her. Well, they did use her. The couple is trying to get by the operator to speak to somebody, and the operator is trying to stop them. So I guess that probably means that Lois just happened to be near the room or whatever and saw this going on, and she intervened before anything, could get bigger. But she talks to this older couple, and the couple has stocks in the Guy Bart mine, and someone has really been pressuring them to sell the stocks. The gentleman of the duo doesn't think that what has been offered is a fair price, and thinks that maybe he's being bullied into selling this at a loss. The money is decent, but it can't be anywhere near what gold mine stock would be worth, he feels. And so he is alerting someone that he thinks can help something, either help determine the actual value, which he doesn't know, but it must be more than what he thinks, or if something is not right about the fact that they're being pressured to sell these. Either way, it's a story perhaps that the paper can look into and get more information to help them decide what to do, to help get the people off their back that's trying to buy, giving them something, change. There's something about this situation that doesn't feel right, and he is asking the paper for help, however that help, whatever form it takes. So he talks to Lois, gives her the story, asks for assistance. She goes to the editor, gives him the story, and he is like, yeah, go ahead, pursue this, see what you can find. Lois goes back to the couple and asks if she can hold on to this stock. Does she really give a reason? I don't know why she would physically need them. She could get whatever information she needs off of them, any numbers or whatever. But she asks if she can. She's going to pursue the story, see what she can find out, and asks if she can hold on to the stock. The couple's like, yeah, that's not a problem. A little bit later, as she's in her office, some rather gruff-looking dude comes up and says that he has just purchased the Guy Bart, or no, let me rephrase. He says, I've just purchased the Guy Bart mining stock from the Simses. That's the name of the couple. You'll give it to me, please. And she's like, no, they weren't going to sell, and they gave it to me to hold on to, so you're trying to do something, and so no. And the dude says, okay, then, well, we'll get all forceful here, and I'm going to take them. And he trashes her desk and starts coming over the desk at her. Clark happens to be there in the ugly suit that the thug was wearing in the previous story. I guess he took the dude's suit, and
This one is worse. His lines are thicker.
Oh, or they're doubled up or something.
Yeah, they're like double or triple lined. And I think Clark could stop the guy just by going, hey, look at the suit. The guy would just faint. He'd just faint.
So here is an opportunity for her to belittle Clark, and honestly, for Clark to show that he is deserving of being belittled.
Yep.
So the thug is coming after her physically. He's already trashed her desk. He's trying to get a hold of her. She asks Clark for help. Clark stands there stimmering and stummering and, whatever. Other male reporters in the newsroom come to the rescue and help the gentleman heels overhead out of the building. Yeah. So, not only does Clark not do anything, but someone else who is more manly proves to be the example and intervenes. And no-name reporters, we don't really know who they are. No. We may never hear from them again, except that we know that they are more manly than Clark Kent is.
I'll refer to them as the twins because they're wearing the exact same suit.
And they do look rather similar facially in the hair. And so.
They're like the I've been watching a lot of the G.I. Joe cartoons lately, and they have these to pad out their ranks during big battles. They have these generic soldiers.
Oh yeah,
that all look the same.
right.
The color of their uniforms are even similar to these suits. So these are like their version of the Star Trek red suit.
The red uniform from Star Trek. So then, after this, Clark says, and he doesn't say this. This is in my mind. So since I didn't help you and that crook almost physically assaulted you, Clark, would you care to go out to lunch with me? It's like, dude, come on.
Right. Her answer was completely unexpected. I figured that she'd be like, screw you, coward.
Oh, no. She's like, okay. Oh, what? And yeah, so she tells him that she's going to keep the stock with her. I don't know. I guess so that we know as the reader why. I don't know why she told him that. But they go to lunch and they see that they're being watched at lunch. So they've been followed this whole time.
By the question.
Essentially, yeah.
He looks like the question.
He doesn't have a face.
He's so far away. He doesn't have a face. Yeah.
Yeah. But he does manage to get close enough and grabs the stock from inside her purse. She put it in her purse. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that works. I know it wouldn't work today. Yeah. So,
but these guys are very brazen. I mean, the one guy attacks her in the Daily Planet, and then
with
this guy,
in her own office. And, yeah.
And then this guy snatches stuff. Yeah, they're very brazen.
They definitely want the stock. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they don't care.
So he grabs him. The bad guy grabs the stock, jumps in a car, gets away. Clark Kent runs off to somewhere, leaving Lois in whatever state of mind she's in, by the way. Changes to Superman, makes out after the car, catches up with it, jumps in front of the car to stop it. And that's the scene like we see at the opening half-page spread where the car crashes into Superman and gets torn up from impacting the impervious Superman. Stops the car. The driver starts to shoot at him. That doesn't work. Superman runs up, rips the door off of the car, grabs the dude out of the door, and all of a sudden the dude is just throwing the stocks at Superman, making it rain, as it were. And he's like, here, take these blankety blank stocks. And you see the stocks flying up all over all in the air and everything.
Such language.
Because he said blankety blank.
Yeah.
Horrid language.
Did he really, is he really saying blankety blank, or is that their version of censoring the cussing?
Well, I think it's a censor of, I think he's being censored. I don't think that's the name of the stocks, because the stock would be in the name of the gold mine. So
I just didn't know if he was, he chose to say blankety blank instead of goddamn stocks,
that's probably what it is.
But I don't know if it's, I just, how sometimes they'll put the curse word in there, but then they'll stick like $ signs or something over it so you can't read it.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know if maybe this is the 1941 version of censoring out. He's really saying, take these shit damn stocks,
right?
But the comic company is censoring it by changing it to blankety blank. He's not saying blankety blank. He's saying shit, crap, stupid.
He's a thug. I don't figure that he would have stopped at blankety blank if he actually been saying it. So, yeah. Superman does tell him, though, I suggest you investigate the possibilities of earning an honest living, because if I ever find you engaged in crooked activity again, there will be one less thief in the world. So that mean he's going to kill him?
Yes.
Like the dude that fell and hit his head? He's like,
that's right.
I have an example.
He's saying, you think that was an accident? Nobody saw me, but I just blew on him with my super breath.
He did the Hulk clap, or yeah. Okay, so he's got the stocks back. Superman changes back to Clark. Clark gives them to Lois, saying that, well, I saw Superman passed me as he was going by after all this and gave me the stocks to give back to you. He knew, and he went on his way. So they get an airplane. They're going. Well, Clark has to stay. Lois is going to take an airplane to investigate the mine directly. So she's going to the mine. Clark is here, notices a strange dude over here. Oh, well, that's the same dude, he says, that was trying to steal the stocks. I guess the dude from the Daily Planet trying to steal the stocks. He sees him going into the telegraph room at the airport, x-rays the wall, and sees that the guy is, as he says, warning someone that Lois is on the plane. No doubt of it. Lois is in danger. I'm not sure how he could tell. I know typically for the telegraph, you would write it down and give it to them, and then they would tap it out on a wire. I guess he could know what the taps mean and be getting it from, or is he looking at the paper that the dude, I'm not sure how he could tell exactly what the dude was doing specifically. I mean, obviously there's a connection. Here's the bad dude running to the telegraph, seeing Lois is on a plane going somewhere. I'm going to assume that he's telling people whatever. But the way he says it, he knows exactly what the dude is what the information he's relaying. And I'm like,
yeah. And depending on his angle, combination of both X-ray vision and telescopic vision, he would be able to see what's on, if the guy's like holding it up as he's tapping it out,
he's handing it to him or something. Yeah. I don't know. Huh. Oh, I thought the wife was talking to me. She's not. Sorry. Moving on. So Clark runs off, changes to Superman togs, but before he can do anything, we go back to the plane that Lois is on, and we see that it is being attacked in the air by another plane. The pilot of the commercial plane that Lois is on says that the plane above us, or actually the co-pilot, well, I can't tell, one of the two, has gotten a radio message and says the plane above us, it demands we land without radioing for help or we will be shot down. And the other pilot, co-pilot, whichever, yells out, "Piracy in the sky!" Which is where the song would start, because this is like a video for some killer song, and that was the intro to
Piracy in the sky.
Yeah, see, that's exactly how it felt. That's where either the drum kicks in or the lead guitar starts whining the song, and it's like, okay,
yeah,
piracy in the sky. Yeah, I can fly twice as high. Yeah, no, sorry, that's it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a different song. So we go inside the plane, and the warning shots from the plane who is trying to force the commercial jet down, they shoot at the plane. They hit the plane and riddle it with bullets as the warning shot. Doesn't substantially damage the plane. Doesn't manage to kill anybody either. But boy, the way it's drawn, I don't understand why nobody was killed, right? Or like everybody on the plane wasn't killed. I mean, this is, yeah. So the next panel, we cut to the attacking plane, which when you first see it, maybe you can tell. I couldn't tell that it was a plane that has the pilot in a canopy, and right behind the canopy is an open 360-degree pit with a machine gun. So that's a much... Well, not much. That's a little bit more primitive type airplane than what we will see in just a year or so as the U.S. gets involved in World War II.
Yep.
This is still kind of a combination of the early fighting plane, World War I converting to World War II type plane. So you still have the dude, and I know you've seen him. Where do I remember seeing this? In an Indiana Jones movie. His dad, he is flying, Indiana is flying, and his dad is in this pit with the machine gun, shoots up the rear tail.
Yep.
And it's that same style plane, but that is what is tracking on the commercial plane and shooting at it. Superman appears, rips the machine gun off, and then before he can do anything to the attacking plane, decides that he needs to rescue the commercial plane, which now has been hit enough that it is falling, smoking to the ground. Superman gets under it, catches it, sets it on the ground, then leaps back up after the attacking plane, rips off both wings, knocks the engine out of the plane. So basically you have just this fuselage with a dude in it plummeting to the earth, right? It can't do anything else. And then Superman rescues the dude. Now, question that immediately came to my mind, most people in this type of endeavor would have had a parachute, I thought. So after the first wing went off and I knew that the plane was not recoverable, wouldn't I have popped the canopy and gotten the heck out of Dodge? No, the dude sits. One wing ripped off, the other wing ripped off, the motor ripped out. Then I decide, oh, well, I probably should leave the plane now. But
my big question is, aren't there two guys on that plane?
Well, the one with the machine gun, the machine gunner,
the pilot and the machine gunner.
Yeah, I don't know.
So unless
maybe it's one dude and he slipped into the back to do the machine gun and then he slipped up front to fly. Yeah, no,
that seems. But
I don't think that would work.
This shows how much of an overachiever that Superman is. Because frankly, once he ripped off that first wing, that's all he had to do.
Yes.
But then he rips off the second wing. Okay, I get that. Oh, but no, he's not done. He punches the frickin' engine block out of the frickin' plane.
Yep.
I love that. Loved it.
And so after everything I said, what came to mind was when you see the guy, he doesn't have a parachute on at all.
No.
Superman's grabbed him and he gives, it's another scene of the, well, I don't want to help you. And Superman in the air is like, oh, I'll get you to help me. And so he threatens him with various forms of bodily harm here, ultimately just dropping him. And of course that always works because the dude is screaming to try to be helpful and Superman rushes down, which is interesting because he still can't fly. So anyways.
So this is supposed to all be happening as they're both falling together.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure it is. Okay.
I have often made my opinion clear that the movie trope that I hate the most these days is when your two heroes are falling from a great height, or your hero and your villain, and yet they continue to fight, pummeling each other as they're falling. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what this is. Yeah. But my favorite character, I'm going to vote. My favorite character in this issue is on this page, panel 1. And it's that poor bird.
The bird with the question mark. It's like what the hell? Yeah. That is funny. So Superman is wanting to know who hired the airplane dude, the pilot. I mean, the gunner apparently is probably dead by now. The plane crashed.
Yeah.
He says, some guy I never saw before offered me a couple of hundred if I'd bring the airliner down and steal some stock from a girl named Lois. So he got paid to return the stock, and so he's going to shoot the plane down so that it crashes and burns, and then get the stock. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, didn't hire a smart man.
Well, yeah. So we go back to the commercial airliner inside. We see a brief scene of Lois again, like we have mentioned previously, to show you that Lois is involved in the story. It's kind of just a touchstone. Oh, Lois is here. We go back. The plane is trying to take back off. Superman let it down, and now it's decided to take back off, having some issues. But with the assist from Superman, he gets the plane going again. Basically, he throws it, which is going to work. I mean, that's valid.
Yeah.
We get back to. Well, no, I guess we don't get back to. I guess it gets to where, it gets to its destination, which is the vicinity of the Guybart mine area. It lands. Superman sees it's landed safely, and he goes off on his way. We then focus on Lois, who is down asking, Guybart mine? Guybart mine? She's asking somebody for information where this is, anything. And dude jumps up to help her and says that he is Brock Walters, owner of the Walters mine. But he knows where the Guybart mine is. So either he's the next door mine, or all the mines are real close knit community, so they all know each other. Whatever. He knows where the Guy Bart is. He'll gladly take Lois there. On the way to his office, which if he's taking her to Guy Bart, I don't understand why he's going to his office, but that's where he's going. They pass an armored truck on the way to his office, and he explains to Lois that there's been robberies of the gold that has been dug from all the mines, and we have gotten together and we're using this armored truck to transport our gold so that it doesn't get stolen anymore. So they get to his office and they're there. We see him grab up, and you don't necessarily know this, and you have to pay because I said, okay, I'll say it this way. I didn't notice. This comes up later on in the story, but now I see that it comes up here. The men in the armored car hold up Walters and Lois to get the gold shipment of, I guess, the gold that they have mined. So they're going to steal it rather than transport it. But in this panel and the next panel, we see Walters, and then we see one of the guards of the armored car also holding little vials, holding little jars. Now, we're going to find out later on in the movie that actually is nitroglycerin. Why he is picking up, I guess he's already planning to do something to Lois here, and Walters has got some. Spoiler.
Yeah, he's got at least two
Walters
bottles.
is involved later on with some stuff. So, but now, why the guard who is there to steal gold picks up nitroglycerin also, I'm not really sure. But maybe a miscommunication in what the story says and what the artist read was going on. But
yeah,
the two guards, actually, they don't, come to find out, if you're following what this is showing us, they don't steal any gold. It doesn't look like. It looks like the only thing they get away with are these nitroglycerin bottles. So
maybe the gold is, I don't know, because they don't, because they drive up in the armored car and then take off in the armor. Yeah.
So
again, unless there's they're just a lot that they're not showing us between panels.
Well, and maybe this relates to what we find out about Walters at the end. Maybe they were never here to steal any gold. That was a cover for
anyway. Because he does say at the end something about, I had to have them steal from his mine to throw off suspicion,
right, as well as everybody else. Yeah.
So they didn't really need to take off with any gold.
So they run out, throw Lois aside. They don't really need her. They use her briefly as a human shield, even though Walters has not shown that he's going to be doing anything. The guards use Lois as a shield, and then when they get outside to the vicinity of the truck, they throw her away like the trash that she is, jump in the armored car to take off, but Lois has been thrown into the path of that armored car. So as the armored car takes off, it's going to run her down, but Superman shows up, saves her, picks up the armored car, and starts doing the whirly doobie doos with it, with the guys inside, shaking them around and everything. Puts them down in the town, apparently, because now the sheriff is on scene, and to save them, one of the guards doesn't want any more of Superman and asks the sheriff, please arrest me. I give up. Cut back to Lois, who is still with Walters, checking out the Guy Bart mine. They're actually at the Guy Bart mine now. And no sooner do they get there that there is a cave-in. I don't know. I guess it just occurred. Who knows? But she is caved in on the inside. Walters is near the entrance, so he's able to leave after the cave-in. Goes out, tells a couple of the other workers there at the Guy Bart mine. The Guy Bart mine is a dead mine. I don't understand why there are any workers there. But,
right. That's the first thing I thought of. It's not just a dead mine. It's an abandoned mine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Not a lot of people working at abandoned mines. So yeah, unless it's these mines are in such close proximity that that's the mine across the street, maybe.
Right.
You know?
It could be. Yeah. The next holler over is the mine, and they're just right there. And yeah. Oh, and for those of you, I don't know, in Kansas, Steven, do you guys have hollers? Do you know
I know what a
holler
holler.
is?
I've
Okay.
heard. I don't know if we have hollers,
Okay.
but it's just a hollow, right?
Well, it's the down space between mountains, right? Mountains go
Oh.
up.
Well, we don't have
And
mountains.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know if in Kansas you guys
We
know
have
what hollers are.
there's a great big hill in outside Lawrence that they call Mount Blue.
Okay.
But yeah, we don't have mountains.
Yeah, it's like I tell people, mountains, they go up, and where they come down in between the mountains, that's usually
a holler.
a holler. Yeah,
okay.
that's
we have bluffs.
Oh, okay. Well, you've got to come down from a bluff, so you probably have. If you look at maps, somewhere there's probably going to be something called something holler.
Yeah, that probably.
And also, guys, it's spelled HOLLOW, but it's pronounced holler. If you pronounce that hollow, you'll get kicked out of anywhere that you're saying that word. Just
the entire state, they just kick you out.
Just like the little small piece of moving water, it's spelled CREEK, but it's pronounced crick. Yeah, it's not a creek. If it's a creek, look over your shoulder, because somebody will be throwing you out of somewhere.
A creak is the noise your bones make.
Or the rocking chair in a scary, it creaks. Yeah, that's a creak. Yeah. So okay. Okay. So now Walters went out to get help because, and those of you on the podcast, you can't see, I threw up the quote fingers there for get help. Cut back to Lois, and now she's starting to sweat. Oh, I'm still stuck in here. Oh, the air is gonna run out. Oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Superman breaks through the wall. Here, Lois, I'll help you. Let's go this way. And he tells her, oh, and look what I found. And this is leading up to something that you said you had an issue with. Superman shows her a stockpile of gold. And in the panel, you have Superman and you have Lois standing there. And the stockpile of gold is a pile on the ground in between them, of nuggets, like fist-sized nuggets. I mean, they're baseball-sized. I mean, they're big. But the pile maybe comes up to a knee. Maybe.
It could be road apples that were painted gold.
It could be anything. Yeah. So Lois is all excited because now they are in the Guy Bart mine. And the mine is abandoned because there's no gold there. Well, she rushes out, showing the workers again at the Guy Bart mine, and Walters, he's still out here, and you can tell him because he has the green hat, whereas the workers don't. So immediately you can tell them apart.
Can I point out real quick what Superman is telling Lois when he shows her the pile of gold?
Okay.
Help yourself, he says, but don't reveal the mine's secret entrance. So it's almost like he's not showing her the gold to say, for an abandoned mine, there sure is a stockpile of gold here. It's more like hey, here's some gold. Why don't you take some?
But don't tell anybody where you got it.
That's right. Superman's bad dude.
So she runs out, and I guess she must run out through the secret entrance because there's still the caved-in main part there. So she runs out telling everybody, look, it's gold. The gold is falling. The gold is... No, she tells them that it's gold, and you see in this one panel that Walters is kind of off to the side with a kind of look on his face here. So they go, the workers and Walters and Lois all go back now to clear the cave-in so they can get to this part of the mine that Superman showed Lois that has the gold. Well, while they're doing this, the man with the scar. Yeah, that man with the scar. He shows up with a pistol and holds everybody, tells them to stop what they're doing. He is the bad guy.
And it took me a minute to figure out, because when they said the man with the scar, and I'm like, who?
What man?
It took me a bit to realize, I guess that's the guy that was in the Daily Planet.
Yeah.
Who tried to get the first guy who tried to get the stocks.
When I thought of it, that must be basically, that's really the only other person she's seen in this particular story that could be a bad guy that,
There was the guy that they hired to steal the stocks from her at the restaurant.
She couldn't have gotten a close enough view of him.
Right, exactly. So yeah, the guy that really this whole page and what comes out of it, this is where I get really confused because so many of these guys are wearing these green cowboy hats.
Now they're starting to pop up everywhere.
It throws me off, especially look at the top row of panels on this page.
Right.
The third panel has what's his name? Martin? Is that his name?
Walters.
Right. Gold in the guy bar mine? Nonsense. You're wasting your time.
Right.
The panel right below it, another guy in a green hat looks almost exactly like him. The only thing he doesn't have is that frickin' neckerchief.
Right.
And he's saying to the guy with the scar, right away, boss. So immediately I'm like, what?
Why is he?
Yeah.
So I guess the guy from the upper panel in the green hat is the guy in the green hat panel back.
Right.
In that, so I guess if he is even either of these guys, it could be he's not either one of them.
Yeah, because Walters, who do we learn Walters is?
He is the main bad. He's the one ultimately
he's the guy with the scar.
Everything. Yeah,
and so at some point between the third panel and the fourth panel, Walters sneaks away, takes his hat off,
scars
puts a
himself,
scar and a mustache on, and then comes back in with a bunch of other guys.
Yeah. So this Walters, if this is Walters up here with the kerchief, is he changes by in two panels, because two panels later, well, actually in the next panel, because it's him holding the gun here, you can see a hand from panel left holding the pistol. So yeah,
the only thing that Walters has when he's wearing the green cowboy hat that none of the other green cowboy hat guys have is that neckerchief. Mm-hmm. And it's the same one that the scar guy, because when you go from that third panel to the fourth panel, you see a guy moving boulders wearing a green cowboy hat. And I thought,
he didn't have the.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, that's Walters. Well, is this Walters in the fifth panel saying right away, boss? And it wasn't until the reveal that I'm like, okay, I have to go back and look all of this over again because I'm super confused. That's when I finally noticed the neckerchief.
Right. Or if it were later in the 60s and it was you were hanging around with your friends in a Great Dane, it would be an ascot.
That's right.
So, but that hasn't occurred yet, so it's a neckerchief. Yeah, so that's what you have to do, I guess. You have to track that to see where he is. So he's in this first panel here, the third panel in the front row, top row, and then the next panel he's not in there anywhere. He's not in that panel. And then in the next panel, you see this dude, white shirt, neckerchief, but without a hat, and some different facial features.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
And I can imagine the artist being like, "It's so obvious. How can you not follow this? It's so obvious."
What do you mean you didn't understand?
The neckerchief. Just follow the neckerchief, man.
So, so at gunpoint, the Scar guy, or we'll just call him Scar. And not Mufasa's Scar either. Now that I think about it, this is a different Scar. This is a human.
It's a human Scar.
Not a lion. Yes, not a lion Scar. Gets everybody at gunpoint to open up the collapsed portion of the mine shaft and to go in and get all the gold. Which right there tells you that it's not that the mine isn't a thing if they could just go in and get all the gold and take it out. So obviously something else is going on. They have it all stacked up here. Scar tells them when. Okay, I was gonna say Weck. What? When I give you the signal fire, these witnesses must be wiped out. It's a bunch of the workers and Lois, and you would presume that, well, no, Clark hasn't been here, has he? It's just been Superman. So somewhere along the way he has kicked off. I guess he never came out of the mine with Lois. I guess he went somewhere else when Lois came running out of the mine. Because in all these, with the vanishing, appearing men in the kerchief and green hat, we don't see Superman anywhere until Lois and the group of miners. But Lois is threatened with execution. Superman runs out, and as you pointed out, does another one of his jump in front of the bullets using his hand kind of thing. And in this one, I can almost see him doing this hand back and forthy kind of thing to block them all, because you see 5 different bullets, 4 different weapons, sounds at each bullet, like it is like it's hitting something, even though a couple of them are nowhere near his body. Yeah. So I guess he has rushed out in front and he's just blocking them, or doing like a Wonder Woman bracelet kind of thing only.
Yeah, the narration does say that he streaks into the line of fire and snatches up the bullets before they can reach their targets. But some of them are going smack, slap, splat, you know?
Yeah, and there's nothing there.
Right.
It just, the bullet trail just ends. So I guess taking a second, the artist could have done a little bit more, maybe with motion lines and speed lines, to indicate that that was all Superman doing that. But
you really have to hyper focus on the art in this one to just really, because so many quick changes and people leaving and not leaving, and it's
almost a, when you get done with the story, go back and just look at the art and not worry about the narration, to try to track everything.
You know, there are movies like that where they sprinkle in the clues throughout, and you get to the end and you find out the mystery, and then you want to go back and watch it, and all that's done on purpose. And it's not really done on purpose here. It's just
So shooting didn't work, so everybody basically throws down their weapons and attacks Superman in mass, which doesn't work. Superman disarms them, taking all of their weapons, hands the weapons to the miners, the quote good guys, and tells them, turns over all the bad guy miners, which at this point I'm not sure how the two sides are going to tell each other apart, because they look very similar. So, you know, no, I'm a good guy. I mean, how are you going to know? But,
right.
So that happens, and in the meantime, Scar has grabbed up Lois, grabbed himself a horse, and took off.
I got a mine joke for you real quick.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
What do you get when you throw a piano down a mine shaft?
I don't know.
A flat minor.
Okay.
I apologize.
That's a dad joke. That's a bad dad joke.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Superman catches up with Lois and Scar on the horse, but Scar has a bottle of nitroglycerin. So now that you see this again, it would be worth going back and looking at the art to seeing. But I pointed out the nitroglycerin because I hadn't seen it to begin with. This time, as I was talking about it, I saw that, and so I made mention of that ahead of time. As he's threatening Superman with the nitro, the horse stumbles, runs into a gopher hole, who knows? He stumbles and falls. So now, of course, the fear is that the nitro is going to hit something and it's going to go off and it's going to kill everybody except for Superman. So Superman grabs the nitroglycerin, flies it up into the sky, and it explodes. I don't know, maybe he just smashes it against his chest. We don't know. It goes off, doesn't hurt him. He jumps back down and grabs Lois and Scar, takes him back to the mine where the officials have now gathered. And this is where we find out, with a quick snatch from Superman, that Scar is actually Walter's, because the mustache and the scar are both removable, which we don't see, but actually the scar wasn't removable. And what happens is half the guy's face is gone, and he's just turned away from the camera, so we can't see that, so Superman really just gave him the Wolverine there and just ripped off part of it and say, see, the scar comes off. It's like, yeah, it does. So that's the big reveal. Superman flies off. We find out that the gold that was found is the gold from all the surrounding mines that had been stolen by Walters. So in giving all that gold back to its rightful owners, Lois triggered a reward that was being offered. She collected the reward, took it back to Metropolis, and gave it to that original couple who were in financial straits, and that's the reason they were wondering if their Gold Bar stock was worth anything. And so they keep the stock, which we find out truly is not worth anything because the mine is played out. It was just being used as a storage. And Lois gives the money to the couple with a, let's see, Clark on our way out here tells us, nice going, Lois. Outwardly, inwardly, he's thinking, what a girl. She's 1 in a million girl.
She's 1 in a million girl.
Yeah,
why would I lie?
That was J.D. Pennington. Exile. I remember it being sung by Exile. Was it sung by someone else?
I don't remember. I
believe it was Exile.
Don't fall in love.
Yeah.
She's a beauty. Yeah, I just know I can picture the video in my head. But
so what'd you think of that?
Lot of text on this last page.
I'm sorry, the tubes. Or by the OJs.
Okay.
Or by it's been around a while.
Yeah,
so
the 80s version would have been the tubes.
Would have been the tubes, yeah.
A lot of text on this page. I'm still kind of confused. I think this guy, the bandit, is kind of an idiot because, I mean, first of all, if you're a stockholder of this mine and you've got 500 shares of this stock, how do you not know that the mine has been abandoned? You think that's something they would communicate with their shareholders?
I would think you would find out. Yeah.
Secondly, I don't know. I've never owned stock in a mine, but the whole reason this guy was trying to get these stocks was because he was using the abandoned mine to store the stolen gold, and he just didn't want any shareholders showing up and finding out. And I can't imagine that this old couple especially would decide one day, why don't we go tour that mine that we own all these stocks for, you know?
If they hadn't tried to buy the stocks, the old people probably never would have thought about it.
Exactly. And I mean, I get it. If you own all the stocks, then you own 100% of that mine. You don't have to worry about anybody.
Right. You can do whatever you want.
With any authority, coming by. But I don't know. I think the thing that I'm tripping up the most about is that, I don't know, maybe things were done differently back then. But I would like to think that a company, if you have a company that's publicly traded, which is how you're selling stocks, if it fails, you tell the stockholders,
people are going to know
shareholders,
that their stocks really aren't worth anything anymore.
Because had they known that, then hell yeah, they would have sold those stocks for $1 a stock, regardless of what they paid for them. Right. If they had known at that point that the mine, you don't abandon a mine because you just don't feel like working it anymore. It's because it's played out. There's nothing there. Right. And so I've got 500 stocks. I may have paid $5,000 for these stocks, and now they're worthless. So if somebody's going to give me $500 for them, hell yeah, I'm going to sell them. So I don't know. I don't know why. I think this guy, my first order of business would have been to hire a publicist to publicly make it known that that mine is worthless. Get that out there, because obviously whoever owned the mine to begin with wasn't telling the shareholders. Otherwise, that old couple would have just sold those freaking stocks.
But if the mine is old and abandoned, why tell anybody anything? Why not do what you're going to do? What makes you think that? Yeah. I mean, if you don't do anything that makes people question, then chances are nobody's going to question.
Yeah. He went through all of this, attacking Lois at a newspaper, hiring somebody to steal something from her purse in the middle of a crowded restaurant, shooting down an aeroplane full of passengers,
a commercial airplane. Yes.
All under the idea that maybe somebody might want to come and look at the mine.
I need to get all this stock so that nobody else has it. Okay. That's sure.
I mean, it's just as likely that a local school would want to bring their kids there on a field trip. You're going to start blowing up schools too, just in case.
Just in case. Yep. All the local schools, we're going to blow them up so that nobody, yeah.
And there were workers out there doing something, whether they were at a mine that was close enough that they could see. It just
who knows?
Very silly, but not a lot of thought put into this one. But it was still, I enjoyed it. It was fun. I had moments that I was really confused, especially with the whole who's this guy and who's that guy, because they all look exactly the same, which was a failing of this time, unfortunately. And really, I mean, you still get that a lot today, depending on who the artist is.
But it's done much better.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to rely on visually something like that being a key, you have to do it better. There has to be. Yeah. Now, I guess, as we found with this, the kerchief was the key.
Right. Yes. Nobody else is wearing a kerchief, just him.
Yeah. So, we should have realized, hey, we don't see this dude, but this dude has the same kerchief. I wonder. And then,
right. Yeah. Wait a minute.
But look, I'm sorry. Yeah. 6 or 8 year old reading that story, they never would have put that together. Yeah. It's so.
And at the same time, I doubt they finished it going, now hold on a second. They were probably just like, yay, Superman beat some people up. And
why are they trying to buy back that stock?
Yeah.
In my Wall Street class, they said that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. A lot of this, not just action, but a lot of like violence, a lot of violent action. These two stories, maybe it's been ramping up and I just haven't noticed, but I definitely did with these two stories. We talked about this time out that,
a lot of action.
So, good fun stuff.
The only other two things I want to point out is if we go back one page, as soon as Walters jumps on the horse with Lois, and the horse trips, I'm really nervous about turning that page. I'm assuming we're going to get a repeat of the last issue where the guy tripped and hit his head and died.
Well, and so maybe that horse falls and breaks its neck like they used to do in movies. That's.
Well, and if you look at those 3 panels and ignore any text, I was really confused at first at what was happening in that last panel, because Superman is leaping at them, but he's coming in a downward arc. And it almost looks like, because if he had been flying by, that last panel almost looks as if he had lifted Lois off of the horse. He's flying away with Lois.
Okay, you could almost see that. Yeah.
So as I'm kind of looking at this before I'm reading what's going on, I'm like, how I understand that he breaks, the physical plane a lot when it comes to his leaping around, but they've taken it a step too far. How can he be falling and still pick her up and take her off of the horse? And then I read it and I said, okay. But that I really was worried that we were going to get a dead villain or a dead horse or both.
Yep.
And then if we go back even further to my favorite character in the book, the bird.
Ah, yes.
That page, the thing that didn't strike me until we were just going through it. So you got the bird in that first panel with the big question mark. And apparently the bird finds this so interesting that in the third panel brings 2 of his friends along to watch.
He's brought friends. Yes.
It's like, oh my God, you guys come check this out.
Yep. Because the panel in between, he's gone. So that's where he goes to get his buddies.
Yep. He flew off to get his friends.
And then he shows up with his buddies here. Watch this. And
it's like, Roy, Jay, come check this out.
Yep.
Yeah. It was a good one. I tell you what, this is what episode, when we came back, we started with episode 67, right?
Well, we've done 6 and this is 8.
Okay.
So what?
8 stories.
67 would be.
8 stories that we have read since we've come back, and they've all been great.
Yes. Maybe we got a little burned out.
Maybe.
Up until then, because it was so much the same. story after story after, and taking a break and then coming back. It's maybe. I don't want to say that it was me because I'm never at fault. So it must be something to do with the writing. The writing has gotten better. It's
Yes. Yeah.
So.
They've been a lot more fun, a lot of action, a lot of crazy, ridiculous situations.
Yeah.
They've
Although
been good.
I still am getting to the point where I want to see some recurring super powered villain,
Yes.
something to the level of Superman's ability. Something that would get his interest. It's got to be something big because Superman, he can jump and he can twirl around. We've seen, and he can block bullets, and he's fast, and all of these things. And it's like
we need to have
and guns, and
we need to have, because we've had of course the Ultra Humanite.
Right.
He's the closest, except for Luthor. He's the closest we've come to a nemesis, a supervillain. And neither he nor Luthor are superpowered. They're just they're just really smart.
Right.
We had the issue with the giants.
Right.
So that's the biggest real. So we need an alien invasion.
Alien robots, like you were saying.
Yes.
We
need an army of robots. Yeah.
Something.
We just simply need a villain with superpowers of some sort. Whether they are exactly like Superman's or they come up with something. Yeah. I'd really be interested to find out how far we have to go before we get to anything like that.
We're going, 3-4 years now that they've been writing Superman?
We are 39. We've gone through 2 full years.
2 full years. Okay.
It's like April or May of 38 when it started, and now we're getting close to April and May of 41, so that'd be 3 years.
3 years. Yep. And now we've just branched out into our third book.
Yep.
That's going to be carrying Superman. So there's plenty of stories coming every month or every 2 months if you put 2 months together, and it's like, come on guys, let's start getting some big villains for some aliens. Come on. This is the late 30s and early 40s, and Superman is not fighting aliens, men in spaceships. So,
and I don't know when. I mean, there were characters like Flash. Flash Gordon is from this time, right?
I think so.
If not before. So it's not like we're in an era where sci-fi wasn't a thing.
Right. Yeah. Where it hasn't gotten to that point yet. Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I mentioned the pulps, all of these pulpy stories and movie serials that are coming out and everything with these extraordinary creatures and settings and things, but not in Superman's comic book. They're it's almost like, well, I don't like that kind of stuff, so I'm not going to write with that. This science fiction is blah. And
that's the weird thing, because Jerry Siegel was a big sci-fi guy. He had created his own fanzine in high school where he wrote stories and blah, blah, blah. And there were sci-fi elements in it and stuff. And obviously Superman is a sci-fi character. He is an alien from another world. And yet Siegel wants to use him to tackle gangsters and crooked.
You've already introduced aliens from other planets. Let's lean into that. And, that gives you the ability to virtually do anything that you want to do.
Even there, I can kind of understand that he's, I'm sure he's thinking at this point, that's what makes Superman unique. He's the only alien being on this planet. And I'm ready.
It's a little hard to argue against that. I mean, that is a big point. That's what, and I don't know, maybe, in the other books that are coming out at this time, like Dr. Fate, you have demons and other dimensional creatures and things like that. Hawkman, I believe at this time, well, no, I don't know. I don't know if there's a connection between Hawkman and other planets or not. There's not with Batman. I don't think they've done any dimensional things with Flash yet. You do have Thunderbolt. I'm not sure when he comes. Well, no, he comes out because
he's in that.
Well, he's a genie, essentially, a magic user from another dimension. Yeah. So, I mean, there are other comics that are leaning into this otherworldly kind of stuff, but not Superman, who has a character from another world. It's like
there's when it comes to the fantastical elements in a lot of these other comics, it's more supernatural type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Superman has placed his foot in the mad scientist realm, which could open up all kinds of fun shit. But, you know, it's kind of weird to think, though, that there's not really any supernatural stuff happening in a Superman comic. When you think about nowadays, beyond kryptonite, the one thing that his powers don't work against is magic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was going to say something and I can't remember what it was. So the idea of Superman being the only alien, how that makes him unique. It is kind of like when they rebooted Superman in the 80s with John Byrne. One of the things they did is because by that point in the Silver Age, I think one of the quotes I read was, you throw a rock and you're going to hit a Kryptonian. Right. And that was supposed to be something that made Superman unique, was he was the last son of Krypton. And so when they rebooted, they got rid of all the other Kryptonians. And so I get it, but come on, at least give us somebody else with superpowers. Give us somebody who's super strong. Give us somebody who shoots freaking laser bolts out of their eyes, you know, something. Give us monsters. Giant just Godzilla's attacking the city that Superman has to fight, you know?
From anywhere, from space, from inside the earth, from another dimension, from whatever you want. But yeah.
I think we'll really kind of have quite the celebration on the show when we finally get to one of those issues. And we'll have to mark it down and say Superman was being published this long before other superpowers were entered into the
before he saw an actual alien like him.
Yeah. Because again, we've had Giants.
Yep.
That was one story and it wasn't very good. So
it wasn't a very good use of Giants.
We did have him fighting robots in one of those Luthor issues.
Mm-hmm.
He also had I think a little dinosaur in that underwater city of his. I mean, those were moments where it's like, oh my gosh, they got an underwater city. There's a dinosaur. There's robots. Yes, we're finally. And then it's like, oh, gangsters in the next issue.
Yep.
A guy running a crooked orphanage. Okay.
It seems like, and maybe the feedback they've gotten from those stories has kept them from going that way.
Maybe
that's a part of it also. But yeah, it's like, we'll try something. No, we won't do that.
Maybe that is the appeal of Superman at this time. Maybe readers love him because he is the only person in these comics that is superpowered, is alien, you know, has any abilities whatsoever. And they like the idea of this guy fixing all the world's problems,
the everyday man issues is what he tackles. Could be.
All right. I think I have said what I want to say.
Alrighty. Well then, folks, we definitely want to thank you in the chat room, if there's anybody there, and you listening to the podcast for listening. But until next 2 weeks, I am Ed, that is Steven, and this has been the Superman Super Show. Ciao.
Stop recording. Okay. I don't think there's anybody else still watching live because the number is at 0, but
okay.
I don't know how, if somebody is watching live, how long it takes for that to show that somebody's watching live. But if you're watching live, we're going to end the stream. So we'll see you in probably in 2 more weeks, where we'll do Action 36, and I don't know what's after that. So
let's see.
Action 36, which does not have robots in it.
Action 36 and the first story from Superman issue 10.
Cool. All right, ending the stream. Bye, all.